Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Romanian here. Family from my dad's side live in a really remote place up in the mountains where spooky stuff going on. Great-grandpa who lived an abnormally long life used to tell me about the Cilioaie, an undead woman thing that sucks your blood or the blood of your animals at night if it enters your home or yard. One day he saw a cartwheel rolling down the hill and entering his yard directly before entering the barn. My great-grandpa knew that it was a Cilioaie transformed. They can transform into objects or animals, so he locked himself in the house. At midnight he woke up, hanged the wheel by a tree and waited until morning. When morning came, the wheel transformed into a decayed corpse. Another story is again with my great-grandpa who used to impale his axe into the ground every time there was a bad storm. The storm immediately disappeared, and the sky cleared. I actually witnessed that myself. It's cool to know my great-grandpa was a man full of stories, but there was certainly something special about him. It's like he had something most people don't.
Can you explain more about the axe thing?
My great-grandpa was sort of a healer. He knew almost everything about diseases and cures and stuff, put bones back together, cured people, etc. He also lived extremely long. I don't know exactly how much, but he was over 105 to 110 because he was well alive during WW1. When he died it seemed that he was merely going somewhere else and left this world like you would leave a room. Before dying he asked me grandma to make him beans and sausages because he was hungry and doesn't want to go on an empty stomach. He was healthy too, so my grandma thought he must meet with someone, so she prepared him his food. He ate, went to sleep and never woke up. Anyway, since he used to live in the mountains, there were blizzards with snow and ice even in the summer. And those blizzards usually destroyed crops, made holes in the roof, break windows, etc. And every time there was a bad blizzard my grandpa took his axe. I still have that axe somewhere around here. Got to search for it and post a pic and stuck it in the ground in front of the house in the yard. The moment he did that, the blizzard stopped, and the sky cleared. I actually saw this myself several times. Once I went visiting him in the late summer. It was sunny and warm and all, but suddenly there was a huge hailstorm. It caught me in a valley, and it can get really dangerous since those ice pieces are big and can crack your head real nice. Anyway, my great-grandpa knew I was coming, and when he saw the hailstorm, he took his axe and came after me. Once he saw me, he stuck the axe in the ground and the ice stopped that fucking instant. I shit you not. Be right back, looking for that axe, and I'll post a pic as I find it. It's really old and rusty, so don't expect some magical artifact. There are storied about dog men, werewolves too. We call them Pricolici, and they fucking attack you.
Please share some werewolf stories if you got any. They are maybe my favorite Balkan stories.
This happened to me a few years back. It was summer and I was visiting my great-grandpa. It was kind of late at night and I was in the yard doing whatever, when I heard the loudest scream in my fucking life. It was bone-chilling and it lasted so long, like a continuous screech like a monkey and a dog yelping and an angry cat, then I heard dog barks and then silence. I ran to the garden and saw a dog all mangled, slaughtered and dead in a pool of blood. Had to call my uncle and have him help me carry the corpse and drop it in the garbage pit. My great-grandpa locked every gate to the yard and went praying that night. He said it was a Pricolici and it came to attack the animals, but apparently the dog found it and they fought. There was another incident with the dad of a friend of mine in the village. He was out in the field working that day and he should have returned at dusk. Of course, he didn't get home, so my friend, his uncle, his cousin and I went looking for him. We found him in a tree on the side of a road, scared shitless. He said a Pricolici attacked him, but he managed to run away and climb into a tree. He never was the same afterwards, got sicker and sicker until he couldn't work anymore. He's not dead, but he looks so old and he's barely 50-ish. God knows what happened to him. Another Pricolici attacked the horse of a neighbor. I mean, it's a fucking horse and there aren't many animals capable of attacking a horse and kill it. Not even a bear will go up close and attack a fucking horseman, so WTF happened I have no idea. We found the horse a few days later, dead and eaten.
Romanian here. I actually grew in a remote village in the ass of the world right in the Subcarpathian, with forests all around it. Oh, that village was also founded by monks, so there's even more spoopy stuff. My uncle was going home one night and he had to cross a bridge near my house in order to get home. At around 1 a.m. in the night he started to shout at my mother to get out and let him inside because the devil is not letting him pass the bridge. He stayed at our place till morning. Another family friend stopped twice at the same bridge. One night he was drunk and father told him to GTFO and he started to cry like a little girl saying the devil will do bad things to him if he passes. Of course he was drunk and didn't believed him, but the second he was sober and still couldn't pass. It happened to other people as well and always at night. My mom was coming home from grandpa, he was ill, during night. At some point she heard a chain moving in the nearby stream. It was full moon and you could see everything almost like in the daylight, but there was nothing in the stream. She kept making a few other steps and the sound was getting louder and louder. At some point she couldn't walk anymore. Her feet literally stopped taking command from the brain. She prayed to Jesus and immediately started to run. When she got home she started to cry. A neighbor always at a bridge, a different one, had the same story as the first one. While she was passing over it at night, the bridge started to shake like in an earthquake. When she arrived at half, she couldn't stand anymore on her feet and had to kneel herself. She said, jokingly, she wasn't really scared and insulted the devil to let her go. But then she started to hear horses' steps coming from the mountains like there were an entire army of them, at which point she made the cross sign and praised Jesus again and everything stopped. I have more stories if you want them.
Keep him coming, mate.
My father, when he was a young boy, was sleeping with his other two brothers in the same room, and at night they would often hear scratches at the door. Grandma heard them as well, but in order to not scare the children she continued to say it was their imagination. There were no signs of anything in the morning. Grandma kept hearing the noises until she died. She said she was scared but not that much, saying I'll continue to pray and nothing will happen to me. Also, even the village priest told us that he would often hear scratches at his door as well. Still, Grandma from father's side also told us that in some nights she could hear a loud noise about some carriages with steel wheels going wild on the streets, but when she looked out of mirror there was nothing to be seen, but the noise was there. She told us that noise was made by Iele. Later I found they're supposed to be some sort of fairies from folklore, but grandfather from mother's side said he would also hear the same chariot noise at night. The noise is so loud he couldn't manage to sleep. Other neighbors around him confirmed that. One of father's brothers went to pick shrooms in the nearby forest. At some point he met with an elder of the village which he politely greeted. The elder answered politely as well, but as soon as he passed him, he recalled that the old man died at least 2 years ago. When he looked back he saw an enormous tail coming from his back. He started to run uphill and got a nosebleed, not because he saw Ponsu tough. Another story is about the school president at the time. He's actually a nice and credible person, returning home in the car with his wife from a party or something. Along the road they found a huge bull sitting in the middle of the street. He flashed and honked at it, but the bull did nothing. After a few more honks the bull started to charge them, and when it was about to hit them it disappeared. Their family is now ultra-religious.
This one is a bit funny. There was a show-off in our town. When he was drunk, you could dare him to do some shit nobody else would. So, one day, he said he was going to bring a cross from graveyard and show into people in the tavern. He showed up an hour later, and he indeed brought a dead man's cross. It was wooden and had name and date. When people got fed up with his shit, they sent him back so he could put the cross back where it belongs. He never returned. They found him dead next morning. He was laying on the grave. The doctor said he died of cardiac arrest. The cross was impaled trough a corner of his mantle. Poor guy must have thought that a corpse was holding him, and he died of fear.
Hashtag just Balkan stuff.
Beautiful region with beautiful people who every 50 years like to slaughter each other. It has become a part of the folklore, to be honest. Oh, and about slaughtering people, my grandmother was a secretary in the jurisdiction office, and she's seen some shit. there were two farmers who argued about the ownership of the road between their fields. So, they took it to the court. The judge said he will personally check it out and told them to meet him on that road the day after tomorrow. He took geodetic engineer and my grandma with him. When they got there, there was only one farmer, as the other didn't show up. The judge and engineer went outside, leaving her in the car. She hadn't seen what was going on as they were behind her. After a couple of minutes, the engineer stormed to the driver's seat and started driving really fast. "What about the judge?" asked Grandma, to which he repeatedly replied, "He's gone. He's gone." His chin was bloody. Well, it turned out that the road wasn't from the present farmer, so he took coser, which is a kind of a sickle, and tried to cut the throat of engineer, who nodded his head down to protect his neck. The judge then grabbed farmer's arm to hold him off the other guy. Then he released him and started running for his life. Unfortunately, he tripped over the rock and fell on the ground. The last thing engineer saw was farmer, who stood above the judge, holding a small hatchet and lifting his arm. That farmer showed at the police that same day. He brought judge's shoes so he could prove that he killed him. When the police arrived at crime scene, they found judge's head impaled on nearby wooden fence. My grandmother took injections for the next 2 weeks, as she had nervous breakdown. The farmer who didn't arrive self-end that same year.
See? Beautiful people we are.
How about this one? My mother had a friend who is doctor. He acted a bit cowardly. Our roads are infamous because car crashes regularly occur when it's raining. Tourists just love to speed through those curves. So, our little doctor became nervous as soon as it started raining. He even started walking back and forth. Emergency drivers made fun of him as they poured water from watering can above his window so he would start moving around. One night he was on duty. Homicide was reported. You could imagine how shit scared he was. Well, duty is duty. He drove off to the not-so-nearby mining camp. It was pitch black and only thing he could see was a flickering light hanging from the roof of an old house. When he parked, he saw a man smoking near entrance. He asked man if this is the place where homicide occurred. Guy affirmed it. Then Doc asked him to show him where the victim is. He took him to the attic. There was another man, sitting in the corner of the wall. He didn't move, and there was blood everywhere. Doc approached the body and checked it. His throat was slit open, and was apparent cause of death. Who did it? Doc asked. I did, man answered. And that's it. Doc surely shat himself down the pants, but man hadn't even lifted a finger on him. Murderer was arrested next day.
Yeah, it's normal here for a killer to just go, okay, I killed someone, time to turn myself in. My neighbor stabbed a guy into minced meat on a bet. And his father stabbed his mother with a knife in the throat a couple of times. He claimed he held a ladle and he was just teasing her.
Well, yeah, I noticed that too. The classic Balkan murder goes something like this. Two guys in their 30s or 40s with drinking problems get into a fight at the local watering hole over some old skank no one but them finds attractive, but they're yokels, and not really a good catch, so whatever. No one really wins, they just get pulled apart. Fast forward 2 to 3 months. One of the guys sees the other in the local watering hole and provokes him. Verbal fight ensues, but they get pulled away from each other before anything physical happens. The drunker guy goes home mumbling to himself. Gets an axe or an AK left over from a war. Comes back and shoots the other guy really violently. Calmly waits for the police to come. The skank moves on to a next couple of idiots.
Alright friends, get comfy. A little background first. Romanian folklore is full of spoopy stories, with a lot of cryptids and shit. These stories are from my grandparents, who lived in a rural area most of their life. One of the most prevalent ghosts are the Iele, some kind of nymphs. They are usually seen in groups of 3, at night, singing some kind of songs that are said to be the most beautiful crafts the human ear can hear. Before WWII era, be my grandfather, at night with 3 other buddies, going with the horses on hills to let them eat, so the following day they can work well. This is actually pretty common. Laying on grass, looking at the sky and talking. Suddenly, in the middle of the fucking night they hear a beautiful song sung by some really high woman voices. They know what's going on, so they keep their mouths shut. This ILAs are hunting their prey by luring them. They usually sing near forests, really bone-chilling. After the sound has stopped, they wait for another 10 minutes, get on their horses and book it. Unfortunately they left one there because saving their asses was the first priority. Next day, they find burned circles in the grass. It's said that where they dance they also leave these burned circles. One shepherd tell them that he found their horse. Well, half of it's in the forest. What's left of it is hanged by the intestines on a tree. Its face is half carved to the skull. Crazy ass ghost bitches. I have more, not only with Iele. Story number 2. Also, some explanations first. It's said that the most fucked up shit happens at crossroads, at night. Be my grandfather's brother, coming home from a tavern a little far away from his house alone. 1 a.m. Crossroads. He hears something like a shriek coming from his back. It's a fucking lamb coming in a fast pace at him while screaming very loud and very fast out of goddamn nowhere. Ah shit. My granddad's brother is calm and walks on. The lamb is following him. Still screaming. He stops. The lamb stops too, but doesn't get any closer. It just sits there and looks at him while screaming. My granddad's brother throws a rock at it. It doesn't even flinch. He's not a lil bitch, so he goes straight at the lamb to beat the crap out of it. When he is 1 meter close to it, the lamb's shriek transforms into a very low pitch scream that makes you shit bricks. The old man freezes in place and starts saying a prayer. Halfway through it he feels dizzy and faints. He wakes up the next day. Okay friends, I'm back. This is a thing that happened to my father at the beginning of the 90s. Keep in mind that my father is the absolute skeptic, even more than me. Like, seriously, the absolute skeptic. He doesn't believe in anything, be it God, ghost brothers, ALMAOs etc. Finally, here is it, be my father. Always hanging out with his best bud. Both of them are kind of slacker type. Hanging out all day, making lots of money from borderline legal activities. Lots of free time spent going to parties, underground clubs, mountain trips, getting drunk with friends. Feels good man. JPG. One usual day. Almost evening. Both of them walking on the sidewalk. Suddenly, he sees one huge ass black dog, a little bigger than a Great Dane but very muscular, coming from around the corner. Its pupils are super dilated. No time to wonder why the fuck is it roaming freely in a 400,000 population city. The dog starts running straight at him. Oh shit. Avi. My pap's maximum warp overdrives right into the fucking street because of the panic. One car almost hits him. He looks back at the sidewalk. No doggo. His bud didn't even move and the people on the sidewalk look at him like he's fucking nuts. His bud asks him why the hell did he do that. He responds by asking him how the hell did he not see the big ass doggo. He tells him there was no doggo coming at them and that he just jumped in the street like crazy. WTF. He thinks to himself that maybe it ran into a back alley or something. Whatever. Moves on. Second day in the morning. Paps and his friend are at his apartment. Planning the day and drinking coffee. Chillax, talking. Suddenly, 3 very loud knocks at the door. Very fast and extremely loud, like ear-hurting loud, and then silence. They both hear it. What the fucking hell? Is it the fucking SWAT or what? 2 seconds later my father is at the door to see who the fuck wants to break the fucking door down. He opens the door. Nobody. Not even on the stairs. Meh. Maybe little brats playing ding-dong ditch probably. Third day after the first event. Dad and his friend are invited to a party in a little village close to the city. Dad doesn't feel like going partying hard that night, and also has to attend to a wedding of another friend of his. Best bud tries to convince him to come but fails. Best bud gets in the car with 5 other people. It doesn't start. Battery is dead. After about half an hour they buy another one and change the old one. Ready to go. 150 km/h on the highway. Another car comes from the opposite lane. Full impact. Car rolls 6 times on a hill before stopping. Everybody is hurt. Best bud is the worst. Vision lost, broken ribs, liver damage, lung damage, injuries everywhere and waist down is just a grotesque mass of tangled flesh. Worst part, he is still alive. On the way to the hospital he screams in pain. He repeats, "Get me out of here, get me out of here." 3 hours of agonizing pain later he is dead at the hospital. Everybody else in his car survived. My father found about it some hours later. Fucking crushed. Never spoke about what happened the days before ever. I am the only person who knows about it. That's pretty much it, friends. What do you think about it? Keep in mind that besides alcohol he never done any kind of drugs. I read about hell doggos before but I didn't believe it. Do you also have other stories about these creatures?
Macedonia here. Only have stories about 2 UFO encounters my father had and few in a wood spoops, all of them are shared. So this story happened around 10 years around January 10th during preparations for Orthodox baptism of Jesus here called Vodici. Usually involves a lot of people returning to their birthplaces, usually villages. Crashing from one house party for the next, celebrating with a lot of hot rakia for 2 days and a lot of gunfire for the kicks. Anyway, my father first told this story while having his cousin as a guest during celebration of House Saint Nicola, and this is important because the father of this cousin is living in the village for whole his life, and never moved into the nearby town, and he told about weird things happening in the village to my grandfather around this period. So my father and grandfather go one morning to make preparations, clean the house, bring some firewood, so they set off to the nearby forest. As they bring logs or branches or wherever they can find that doesn't require cutting down trees, usually they find like logs from illegal forest cutting and just drag them to the house. As the day goes by, it's getting late and it's now at around 8 and it's pitch black, so they decide to head back. They are around half hour walking in one way to get back in the house. As they get axes and ropes, they see blinding red light coming from the woods like there is huge fire going on, but there is no sound of something burning. Matter of fact, there is not sound of anything going. They head up to check it out, and as they go toward it they start to feel that something is not right, so my grandfather panics, pulls my father, and they storm out of there ruining, pack the shit up in a hurry and get the hell out of the village in record time. If you see extraterrestrial when they walk in the woods, pick related, that's what it looked like. I showed this to my father, and I could see him shitting pants. Next day they decide to go again, they search the area but there is no sign of anything. Other story is from mass UFO sighting that happened during town rally.
This individual did not post the other UFO story in the thread.
Finally, found an accurate thread to post some childhood stories. Half Romanian, half French here, so my English is not that good. I was born in France, and went to live in Romania for 2 years and a half with my mother when I was 8 to 10 years old, difficult divorce and all that stuff. My Romanian side of the family has a fair share of weird stories, can't remember all of them but have a few that happened to me personally. My mother has some premonitory dreams ability, and my grandmother is kind of a white witch dabbling in purifying, exorcising, and also Reiki. I don't have any of this, only the fact of witnessing weird stuff and a huge interest in the occult. So, I spent 2 years and a half of my childhood in Cilioaie, a beautiful city in the Carpathian Mountains with a lot of history to it. I lived with both my grandparents and my mother in a neighborhood comprised of communist-era apartment blocks in the outskirts of the city where the walls could get kind of moldy, but the gardens surrounding them were where a lot of my fondest memories took place. For those of you not familiar with this city, its layout is all in length at the heart of a valley crossed by a large road, a railway track and a river, almost parallel to each other. The city extends up in the mountain, but most of its heart is along this line. North is the more historical part of the city, with the Pele's castle up in the mountains, is south is where most of the new apartment buildings are built, extending further down over time. One thing that struck me in particular in the southern, most recently built neighborhood, was that the ground was almost always humid, almost muddy, even when rain didn't fall for quite some time. It left quite an impression on tiny 8-year-old me, even if I was the kind of child only going back inside for dinner. Let's try to Greentext one of those memories happening in this place in particular. Me, wild kid always running around alone in the city. Never had any problem whatsoever, bad encounters or the like, except with bears coming down from the mountain, but there are packs of wild dogs protecting the people from them here. Went to visit a friend living in the southern, modern neighborhood. Muddy as always, even more as rain fell earlier this morning. Alone, walking on a tiny path along the forest, with a busy road a few meters down for a few kilometers. We'll tell some more stuff on this particular path later. Finally get into the neighborhood, looking for the apartment building where my friend lives. Construction site nearby for some more buildings, no fence, muddy as hell. Look around for a bit, see those huge concrete pipes laying horizontally, diameter taller than me. Go to take a closer look. See something on top of one. It's gray, quite big like a shopping cart, kind of hunched over. Standing like some kind of bird with wings spread a little. Stop where I am, 20 meters away maybe. Looking for any details I can. It has the same color as the concrete pipe, maybe a little bit lighter. Fat bird body but no feathers, only smooth, concrete-like skin, looks soft. Flat gull-like wings, folded so couldn't see how long. Long head, could not tell where beak starts. Slightly pointed skull. Suddenly, it moves a little bit, wing and beak movement. That thing is alive and not a statue. Don't get closer, don't run away, just decide to leave it as it is and never look back. Arrived to my friend's house to watch some Sailor Moon. I always thought it was some kind of huge-ass pelican, as there are quite a number of them in Romania, but they mostly live around the Danube Delta, and Cilioaie is nowhere close of that. The body shape was very similar, but the lack of visible feather and gray color made it look more like some kind of pterodactyl, or living gargoyle. It was not menacing, just a big fat stony bird chilling around under a gray sky, barely moving or breathing, but really seemed out of place. Fun fact, we have some local dragons in the Romanian folklore, the Zmeu and Balaur, having some particularly interesting traits, but no mention of them being still living prehistoric beasts. Who knows? It could overlap with vampires being described as bat-winged giant creatures.
Romanian friend here, got a few stories, but I'll write the scariest one I have been in high school years ago. Live in a very small city in the middle of the mountains. Always heard kids telling spoopy stories about the hooved people when I was little but never had anything happen to me. On my way to school one day. It was winter so when I left for school at like 7 a.m. it was still dark as fuck. Always go to school with a friend. You always get to see the other kids going to school as well in the morning. Was walking with my friend Wist. In front of us there was a girl with a big winter coat on. Our way to school passed through this weird road kind of thing. It was not paved and it was between the back of some old ass garage and an old building that wasn't used anymore. When we get to said road I had to look down because there was so much snow, had to be careful not to trip or something. Suddenly notice that the girl in front of us is leaving hoof prints instead of normal footprints. I her scared as shit but didn't say anything because I don't want to look like an idiot in front of my friend. Keep waking as if nothing happening. I can't take my eyes off the girl and her hoof prints. It looked like she was wearing some big boots, but it was so dark I couldn't distinguish anything. She was walking about 10 to 15 meters in front of us. By the way, at some point, that road takes a sharp left. Hoof Girl takes the left and I lose sight of her. We take the left too and she's nowhere to be seen. No footprints or hoofprints in the snow, nothing. She just vanished. Try to act cool about it. Try to casually ask my friend if she saw the girl walking in front of us. What girl? Okay. I get to school and tell my other friends about it, they call me crazy. Okay. School is over, time to go home. Do I want to take the long road home or the shortcut through where I saw Hoof Girl? I just imagined it, I'll take the shortcut. I get to said road. I'm shitting bricks but I'm trying to act cool. Hear someone walk behind me, seems like they were talking fast so I slowed down and moved out of the way, so no one gets annoyed at me for slowly walking in front of them. They slow down too. I slow down more. They're getting closer. But at this point their step didn't sound like steps anymore, they sounded more like jumping. To add to it, something sounded like rattling metal, as if the person had two metal thing in their hand and they were knocking into each other as they jumped. At this point I am in the middle of the road. There's about 20 centimeters of fresh snow covering the path, no footprints, so it was hard to walk as I freak the fuck out and start running. Jumping thing is right behind me, jumping faster, metal things rattling louder. 3/4 on my way out at this point. Try to look behind me with the corner of my eye so in case I get murdered in an alley at least I get to see what killed me first. Saw a big brown furry looking thing, thinking back it looked exactly the Hook Girl's coat. Didn't see its head or anything more, I ran as fast as I could. Get out of the alley. I'm finally free. Look behind me in the snow. No footprints other than mine. Okay, I'm going insane. Still shaking, I walk fast back home. Live in an apartment block, on the 4th floor. Run up the stairs. Get inside. Lock door ASAP, try to chill and to forget what happened, obviously crazy. My room is next to the front door. Hear a sound that's like someone crawling on the ground in right outside the door. Nope, 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 it starts banging on the door. Sounded like it was throwing itself against it. Banging keeps on going on for 10 minutes, I even got to record the sound and send it to friends so they know why I died, just in case. I grabbed a knife and was holding onto it, scared that it would break through it. Boy, would my mom be pissed if I bought a supernatural hoof man home that broke our door down. Bang 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 and nothing. Everything stops. No more sounds. I keep the knife in case it's trying to trick me again. 2h later, my mom gets home from work. Anon, why is our door mat thrown down the stairs? Nope, nope, nope. Didn't sleep for weeks and refused to go to school for the following week. Never take that shortcut again. I'm still hoping that I'm just crazy and I imagined it all or something. Feels bad.
Be like 10 or so. Just moved in, rent in an apartment with mom. Shit's a wreck. No heating. The tap water is rusty. Everything is rusty and moldy. But it was cheap. Mom tells me that the last person to live in there was the landlord's mother and she died in the house about 6 months before we moved in. Telling that to a child surely won't spawn any nightmares. My alarm clock never went off as soon as we moved in there. Was late for school every day. One day I have a dream of an old blazing red-skinned woman walking through my house and sitting down on the living room couch. Didn't tell anyone about it and think nothing of it. Fast forward a few months and I make new friends. One of them comes over to my house for a sleepover. In the morning, friend wakes up and tells me he had a nightmare of a red woman looking at him sleeping. Tell friend it was nothing. I shit bricks though. That night I had trouble sleeping. When I finally fall asleep at about 4 a.m. I wake up shortly after to a sudden noise. I had one of those flip phones back then. You were a cool kid if you had one. It had a screen in the front that showed only the clock. Look at phone. Screen is on but there's no clock showing, it's blank. Go to bathroom to wash my face or something, scared as shit. In the bathroom I begin hearing whispers, like many people talking to each other really quietly, so no one hears them, can't tell what they're saying. I'm 10, the only reasonable explanation is ghosts. Get scared as shit, run to my mom's door and start banging on it, and screaming for her to come out. Her door doesn't have a lock. She doesn't respond. I try to open the door but it seems stuck. I run back to my room and hide under the sheets shaking. Nothing suspicious going on anymore. Guess it's over, time to come out from under the sheets. My nightstand shakes as soon as I do. Phone is on the nightstand, screen blank with no clock showing. I grab the phone and flip it open. The main screen turns on, but it's white. I sacredly take the battery out of it. I'm shaking so hard at this point I can barely do that. Battery out, screen is still on, blank. Nope, 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 nope. Throw it in corner of the room. Start crying. Get under the sheets. Cry myself to sleep. Have dream about an old woman, not red this time, that looked like she was wearing an absurd amount of makeup. She had a ton of blue eyeshadow smeared all around her eyes and red lipstick all over her mouth and chin. She's sitting on the edge of my bed this time. Wake up in the morning. Guess it's all been a nightmare. See my phone taken apart in the corner of my room. Ask my mom if she heard put something in front of her door or something so I can't get in. She says no. I tell grandma the whole story and she doesn't let me stay there anymore. Move in with her. Turns out old woman was murdered in the house.
Posting things from an X thread some time ago also about Balkan folklore. This one's a soul of a dead child that is not visited by the Cilioaie, the destiny makers, or later in Christianity, the soul of an unbaptized child. There were times when there was death out of hunger, wars where children died, were not buried in graveyards but thrown in lakes or buried next to random rocks in mountains, hence Nav or Macaruo as they were also called, were being created. River tribes of Montenegro, in fear of old horned witches, didn't call to help witch hunters *, mostly cause of their non-fertility curses. They could make people get lost in forests, never to find their way out. Old horned women lived in caves near rivers. Sometimes it happens that the love between a man and a fairy is so strong, it leads to an unholy pregnancy. Even though, humans' blind love towards a fairy in the end leads to his death, since these beautiful demons dry out man's vain laughing face, his seeds can ultimately find the way to this dimension. The being that is born usually dies, but rarely those who survive, had unhuman strength, and unfortunately, endless exile. The horn on right side of forehead, tells the tale of not just unholy sin, but it is the reason why not one fairy can live to see her newborn. She is torn apart during birth. Unable to be accepted as for humans so for fairies, Svarog lives between two worlds, wandering through woods and mountains. Unhuman strength makes them a beast, only by constitution human-like. However, these beings are not born evil, and only the one who can enslave them and be their master can give them the role of a guard or an executioner. There's an old story of Svarog from pirate ship, Uplava, which sailed one night to the gates of Ulsing fortress, and released this thing inside the fortress. The slaughter that it has created, made the sea Satan mad, and he put a curse on Svarog that captured it inside of rocks near the town of Ulsing. Even to this day lot of people claim that they can hear sounds like rock crushing. They say that the pirate Svarog is trying to get out. Troclocs are dead remains of some beast or an animal that attacked a human while it was alive. If the remains are buried and not thrown into a cold lake, then the Troclocs are made. However, it has happened that someone purposely dust in bones of wild boars, wolves, mad horse, a donkey or any other beast leave on crossroads, in the middle of a road to curse it, or even worse leave it close an unprotected house to bring harm to people in it. Also stablemen were throwing bags in fertile soil, therefore the whole villages were doomed. From old times it has been known that, he who can work with animals with hooves, deals with devils. There were a few smaller wars between Highlanders and hunters from different tribes, against the hordes of Troclocs.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.